Welcome to Center Stage. My name is Mark Gordon. There's a new documentary coming out called Strangers on the Earth, and it follows Dane Johansen as he makes this extraordinary, ambitious mission to traverse the storied paths of Europe's famed pilgrimage trail, the Camino de Santiago. Johansen's singular quest to walk the 600-mile trail carrying his cello on his back sets him apart from most other pilgrims. His goal to perform and record Bach's cello suites in 36 ancient churches along the way. And he's giving us his time, and I have him on the line tonight. Dane, good evening, and welcome Center Stage.
Hi, Mark. Thanks very much.
How did you get involved in this project?
It was back in 2008 that I was talking with a composer friend of mine who had walked the Appalachian Trail here in the U.S., and he had written a bunch of pieces for string quartet along that route. And when he got back and was telling me all about this grand adventure he'd had, I thought, wow, that sounds like something I could do with my cello. Being a kid from Alaska, I'd been kind of looking for a way to combine my love of the outdoors and adventure and hiking and all of that with my love of music. So I thought, that was the beginning of this idea that maybe I would take my cello somewhere and have an adventure and share music along the way. And then I discovered the Camino de Santiago a short time later and decided that would be a really great venue for walking with a cello and for sharing music. I had been looking for a new way to sort of approach and deepen my connection to Bach's cello suites. So I started trying to figure out how to take my cello to Spain and maybe make a recording in some of these ancient churches. The idea was just to make a recording along the Camino de Santiago, and then I got to talking to some filmmaking friends of mine, and they said, we have to make a film about this. The idea kind of grew and grew for the next 6 years until 2014, when we finally made it over there with a crew and all the equipment we needed to shoot the film.
Most people that do the walk, they go there looking for something. They look to find some answer, some deeper meaning within their life. Did it deepen your connection, or did it do something greater than that?
Ultimately, I had a wonderful experience in Spain, and I certainly grew closer to those pieces just because I was performing them every night. I think I played 36 concerts in 40 nights. But the most profound takeaway from the experience was a man came to me one day and said that, he kind of changed the way that I think about being a musician, because he talked about whenever you get up and play for people, whenever you share music with people, you really give them an opportunity to be musicians or to be a musical spirit and to share in that communication and that experience. And I hadn't thought about my role as a performing musician in that way before. And I was really touched by that, and it changed the way that I think about my experience as a performer and then what I'm giving to people in sharing that experience.
In the film, it shows us where your hands are cold and you didn't have a chance to rehearse. In some ways, you had to put your ego aside and just step into the music. And that seemed like that might have been something
right.
that was foreign to you. And once again, this kind of a shift in the way you perceive yourself as a musician and the ultimate reason why you're playing.
When I got over there, I was primarily trying to make a recording in these churches, and then there were all kinds of factors that played into that becoming less and less of a possibility for me. And part of that was that, when we would arrive at a church, it'd be full of people that had heard about what we were doing and were eager to come listen to the music. And it's really hard to make a real recording, like a studio quality recording in a church full of people. It's actually just impossible. So these recording sessions turned into public concerts, and that was a really nice development. As a musician, as a professional musician, I have really high standards for myself, and I'm used to being able to have a little bit of control over the conditions of performance or leading up to a performance, getting ready for it and feeling good about it and everything. And in Spain, I had none of that. I think what really had to change was my attitude about the experience and about how I was playing. And as soon as I stopped thinking about, oh, well, that didn't go quite as I wanted it to, I was able to focus more on just giving this music as a gift to anybody who wanted to listen. And that actually liberated me and I think made the performances much better. So that was a tremendous learning experience for me, and letting go and forgetting a bit about myself in all of that, and just treating it more as a giving exercise.
What was the hardest part about doing the walk and this project?
I didn't train at all before I went to Spain, and to carry my cello and the rest of my stuff for 600 miles, walking between 15 and 25 miles every day. Even if I hadn't been carrying a cello and performing music and everything, just the walking part would have been a real physical challenge. I'm a young person. There were plenty of people there that were a lot older than I was doing this walk. Doing that day in, day out, and day after day, it really gets punishing on your joints. Like my ankles and my knees were sore. It felt like every joint in my feet was sore for, the 45 days that we were over there. It just didn't stop. So that was difficult. The Meseta, that was really probably the most difficult part of the walk, just because it was so long and flat and hot, and it was punishing. The hardest part of the whole idea for me was probably the stuff that we talked about earlier, touching on in performing this music for people along the way, kind of having to let go of what I thought I was going to accomplish, which was to make a recording of these pieces, these cello suites by Bach. So I had to totally let go of that part of the dream, which had been sort of a driving force for me and a reason for doing this for 6 years, and, something that I was really invested in. And, I'd kind of sold the whole project on that recording. Like, a lot of the support that we received for the film was from people that really knew me through my music career and wanted to support that effort because of the recording. So there was a lot of difficulty emotionally and mentally, and just my inner journey tied up with having to let go of making that recording in Spain. And when I was able to overcome that and just focus on producing a film and sharing music with as many people as possible, and trying to give those people a good experience and give them something special that I'm sure was sort of a one highlight among along their Camino. So yeah, that was probably the most difficult part for me, just personally, beyond the physical.
There's some words that I've been writing down as you've been talking. It's this notion of a deeper connection, the letting go of perfection, and how that can be liberating and freeing, and that support that you got along the way, and making that investment in yourself, being invested in the work.
Those ideas are things that I think a lot of people come to as they're traveling this route through Spain. And a lot of people who have taken that walk compare the walk to life. They talk about the Camino de Santiago being a perfect metaphor for life. Those are all things that I encounter in my day-to-day life as well. So the film became this beautiful exploration of what is the Camino de Santiago, and in interviewing all of these people that we met along the way, and sort of weaving these interviews into a communal statement as to what is the Camino de Santiago and what is the experience of walking that route like. In weaving together all of those interviews, we got a really great universal answer to that question. And it seemed like a lot of people were touching on these ideas of letting go of your expectations, and kind of letting things be the way they're going to be as they come at you. And turns out that it's kind of a great film about a life journey, right? Rather than just the Camino de Santiago. It is about the route, but it's also just about the experience of walking that route, which turns out to be a really good way to think about our experience in life in general.
The name of the film is Strangers on the Earth. It opens up in LA on June 1st. Be on the lookout for that. And we have been so lucky tonight to have Dane Johansen on the program. We're going to close with another one of his recordings that was done on his trek of the Camino de Santiago. This is suite number 4 in E. What can you tell us about this one, Dane?
Well, I think you're going to be playing the Sarabande, and I recorded this in a beautiful Romanesque church. It's called San Martin, and it was in a town called Fromista. And it was probably my favorite church along the Camino to play in. It was one of these churches where I would, draw the bow across the strings, and the sound would just really almost have a life of its own for a time after I stopped playing inside that space. And so I really enjoyed performing and making this little recording in that church. And I think this particular recording is featured in my favorite scene of the film as well. So
what scene is that? Tell me your favorite scene.
This church was surrounded by these birds, and outside the church it was just like this never-ending din of these birds flying around, and the racket of their songs and chirping and whatnot, and then like the incredible visual display of these birds flying around this church. And in the scene, it's preceded by kind of a dream sequence, and this pilgrim is talking about this dream that he had on the Camino, and then that transitions into another story from another pilgrim who's talking about like a dream that he had about his sister who he hadn't seen in 25 years because she died in a car accident, and he never got to say goodbye to her. And then while he's telling this story about this dream about his sister from 25 years prior, there's like this bird that we found in the square that was dying, and we kind of just focused the shot on this bird as it had its final moments, and it's just a really poignant scene. It's probably my favorite. This is the music from that scene and from Fromista in Spain.
And just a reminder, you can listen to Center Stage every Tuesday night right here on KXLU Los Angeles, 88.9 FM. We're also streaming on the internet at kxlu.com. If you have any questions or comments about the show, I'd love to hear from you. Send me an email, and my address is mark@stageandscreen.com. Until next time, this is Mark Gordon, and I'll see you Center Stage.